Hi everyone, welcome to Blarney Castle and Gardens, and today something a little bit different. I'm just taking the opportunity because we're working on the beds at the moment. I'm going to show you these rhododendrons. These is inside our walled kitchen garden where we do a lot of our propagation, and these beds in front of and well, all around me actually, these guys are all wild collected rhododendron species from northern Vietnam, and a lot of them are endangered in the wild. We have an ex situ conservation project going on, and these are collected as pretty much microscopic seed, which is sown in our glass houses, grown on, and then moved out into the gardens and planted out as they mature. So this nursery bed is really, I suppose, one stage of the propagation and the growing on. And as they reach this kind of size, we start to transfer them out into the gardens. And we've opened up 2 new beds in the gardens, which are going to be propagation and nursery beds. And one, it will provide us with material to prop from in the future, but also is, from a point of view of these particular guys, a lot of them are rare and unusual varieties, some of which may actually be new species altogether. So by growing them in this controlled bed, which I'm going to show you shortly, we're able to keep an eye on things and observe growth, flowering time, etc. And flowers themselves, which help us to identify them. So it's an exciting project, and as you can see, they're doing really well here. We're actually up against the wall of the wall garden, and they're underneath a load of conifers, which helps just to put that bit of acid into the soil, which suits them. But we start off within a year or two potting them on like this. If Paul wants to zoom in a little bit, these little fellas are from last year, potted on, and from that stage they're lined out into these nursery beds. They do a lot better in the beds than they do in the pots, gives them a much more, I suppose, stable growing situation. And then when they start to reach this sort of size, we plant them out into the gardens and hopefully into their more permanent homes. So we'll go and show you that. So we're now in the upper arboretum, and I'm in the first of the new beds, the nursery beds if you like, but these are outside in the gardens rather than in our private kitchen garden. So this is giving people a chance to see what's being grown on. And we're going to put up a little information sign explaining that all of these guys were collected as tiny little microscopic seed in the mountains of northern Vietnam, and 4, 5, 6 years later this is what you're looking at. So it's by no means instant gardening, but the results are pretty amazing, because come spring quite a few of these are actually already forming flower buds, and in 2 or 3 years, as they all start to develop, this will just be a beautiful walk with a lot of colour in it. Now, I started off with the 2 beds thinking we'll see how we go, because often you use more plants than you realise, but when you're allowing for a little bit of growth and looking at how many plants are down in our wall garden, I think we'll be planting 2 more beds on the opposite side in another week or 2. So from that perspective, it is pretty instant gardening. And if you want to walk down to the other end of this bed with me, I'll just show you quite a few buds coming in. This is a pretty little one that's just forming flower buds. And if you look at the structure and the texture on these, they're beautiful in their own right, just as buds, before they ever open into flower. But what's wonderful is the range of different sizes, shapes and texture just of the leaves. This is another great one. We've tried to guess sizes and what they're going to grow into based on our observations when we collected the parent plants. But sometimes when you're collecting on the mountains, your notes can end up being quite basic. So this one's rhododendron species, pick reference 173, red bark. And I distinctly remember the red bark because it was like mahogany peeling red bark, so it was worthy of note, let's say. But what we tend to do is, with each collection, you photograph the parent plant, you photograph the capsule of the seed and the fruit in your hand, and then you take a few notes, often a GPS location. And in the future, it may well be that some of these guys go extinct in the wild, and as a sort of a heritage collection, let's say, for the future and an ex situ conservation project, it's hugely important that we maintain this genetic stock that could well be the source for reintroduction into the wild, you know, sometime down the line. So from a conservation standpoint, it's a great project to be involved in, but it's also really interesting to plant out this wonderful range of rhododendrons, some of which could even be new species. So exciting for me, hopefully exciting for you as well. And if some of you get in the spring, you'll see these guys in flower, often for the first time. And at the moment in the gardens, there's just fantastic autumn colour everywhere you look. So if you get in now for a walk, it's well worth a visit too. Cheers.